Good morning, everyone. So this morning I want to talk about the occult and magic because firstly, it's fascinating, and secondly, it's actually very fun. So the occult has been made to sound terrifying, forbidden, dark, dangerous, or inherently evil, when in reality the word occult simply means hidden. Hidden knowledge, hidden principles, hidden systems for understanding consciousness, symbolism, energy, intention, ritual, correspondence, and the relationship between the individual and the larger source field. And this is where it gets interesting. Because for centuries, elites, secret societies, esoteric orders, occultists, mystics, ceremonial magicians, and initiatory traditions have taken this knowledge extremely seriously. Hermetics, sacred geometry, astrology, ritual, symbols, invocation, the power of language, the power of intention, the power of attention, the relationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm, as above, so below, as within, so without. These are not just spooky old phrases. They are attempts to describe how reality works. And my view is that much of this knowledge was never meant to be widely understood. The public was taught to fear it, to ridicule it, to associate it automatically with evil. Meanwhile, the people who actually understood the mechanics kept studying it. That is what I want to unpack. Not because I think every occultist is dark, not because I think every secret society is evil, and not because magic means waving a wand and breaking the laws of physics, but because occult traditions preserve an entire language for talking about consciousness, will, symbolism, energy, intention, pattern, ritual, and reality creation. And once you understand that language, a lot of things start making a lot more sense. When people hear the words occult, ritual, or high magic, they tend to immediately think evil. But understanding occult principles does not inherently make someone dark, dangerous, or evil. What I want people to understand is that the elites, the cabal, high-level occultists, celebrities and sports stars, certain secret societies, esoteric orders, and yes, branches of Freemasonry and related traditions have historically taken ritual, symbolism, sacrifice, initiation, sacred geometry, planetary timing, hermetics, and ceremonial magic very seriously. Now, they do not all believe the same thing, and they are not all operating from the same moral framework. And being a Mason, occultist, or esoteric practitioner does not automatically make somebody evil. But the important point is that people in positions of power have long understood that symbols, ritual, belief, attention, repetition, initiation, and consciousness shape human behavior and collective reality. A huge amount of Western esotericism is built around ideas found in Hermetic philosophy. As above, so below, as within, so without. So magic in this framework is fundamentally about will, intention, attention, symbolism, consciousness, and directing energy toward an outcome. Think about what a spell actually is. So you establish an intention. You give that intention language. You may give it symbols, objects, movements, and sound, geometry, prayer, or ritual. Then you repeatedly focus consciousness upon that intention. Now, whether you interpret that metaphysically, psychologically, archetypally, or energetically, the fundamental principle is still the same. Consciousness is being deliberately organized around a pattern. A ritual is essentially a container for that process. This is why ritual works in occult systems. It creates a container for consciousness. And this is where ethics become incredibly important. Knowledge itself is neutral. The question is, what are you doing with it? You can use occult knowledge in ways that are protective, healing, creative, restorative, and aligned with the natural laws of the universe, our intelligent source creator, which I simply refer to as source. Or you can use the same principles for domination, manipulation, fear, coercion, binding, hierarchy, control, or personal power. That is the distinction I make between what people traditionally call white magic and black magic. When I talk about the darker occult practices of elites or cabal structures, I'm talking about the use of ritual and systems in service of control, fear, domination, hierarchy, sacrifice, coercion, and separation from source. And yes, in my framework, some of those groups operate through Luciferian symbolism. But I think people misunderstand what that can mean metaphysically. I'm not necessarily talking about a cartoon devil sitting underground. I'm talking about an egregore. An egregore is a collective thought form created and sustained by repeated human attention, emotion, symbolism, ritual, fear, worship, devotion, and belief. If enough people feed the same archetype over generations, that thought form becomes increasingly powerful within the collective field. So in my framework, a dark Luciferian egregore can become real in a metaphysical sense because human consciousness has continuously fed it. And some people inside those systems may genuinely believe they are serving an external entity. Some may have been conditioned from childhood. Some may be trapped by family systems, contracts, secrecy, fear, coercion, fame, status, or extreme pressure. Some may have been subjected to psychological manipulation or trauma. And yes, we know historically that programs such as MK Ultra were 100% real. And that governments experimented with drugs, trauma, altered states, behavior modification, and psychological control. Now, there are also spiritual entities, deities, or non-human intelligences who are negatively polarized and may be invoked. These are often referred to as archons, which I will not be getting into today. However, when people dismiss the entire idea of elite occult conditioning as absurd, I think they're missing the fact that ritualized psychological manipulation and consciousness control have already existed in documented history over and over again. There may also be people who know perfectly well that they have souls, they know about karma, they understand the afterlife, but they still choose power. They're still negatively polarizing towards service to self. Now, this is where the karmic ledger becomes relevant, because in my framework, nothing is hidden from the source field. You can hide something from the media, you can hide something from the public, you can hide something from the courts, but you cannot hide it from consciousness itself. Your soul is multidimensional. Your actions are recorded in the field. And everything eventually returns to balance. This is where my own practice differs completely. I do not hex people. I do not curse people. I do not use ritual to dominate another person's free will. I work with protection, reversal, timeline correction, abundance, health, coherence, and restoration of balance. And when I perform a reversal ritual, I'm not saying go and harm this person. I am saying place a mirror in the field. Let the deception reveal itself. Let every action meet its own consequence. Let the scales return to balance. This is why I work with deities such as Hecate, Ma'at, and Thoth. So Hecate represents crossroads, gates, thresholds, protection, discernment, and the authority to open and close pathways. Thoth represents wisdom, language, sacred knowledge, higher mind, and clear seeing. And Ma'at represents truth, natural law, cosmic order, justice, and the scales. So when I invoke Ma'at, I am not asking for revenge. I'm asking for truth to be weighed accurately. When I invoke Hecate, I am not asking her to attack somebody. I am asking for false pathways to close, harmful influences to be removed, and aligned gates to open. When I invoke Thoth, I am asking for clarity, wisdom, right speech, and the ability to see beyond distortion. That is the difference. Black magic says, I want control over you. White magic says, I align with source and allow truth, balance, protection, and right order to move through the field. And this also connects to psychic protection. In occult traditions, people talk about thought forms, psychic attack, lower astral entities, energetic cords, dream interference, and projected fear. Now, I absolutely believe that people can experience psychic interference. I also believe people can generate thought forms themselves through trauma, fear, obsession, or repeated attention. Now, this is why energetic hygiene matters. You cleanse your field, you cut cords, and set clear boundaries before sleep. Because if you are having recurring nightmares, in my framework, that can be a sign that something in your field needs attention. It may be your own subconscious processing fear, trauma, or unresolved material. Or it may be a negative cord, entity, attachment, thought form, or lower astral interference interacting with your field while you are asleep. This is where the idea of loose harvesting comes in. The belief that fear, panic, distress, and emotional intensity can feed lower frequency thought forms or entities. And think about the timing. At night, your conscious mind is quieter. Your ordinary waking filters are reduced. Your dream consciousness is active, and within my model, your astral or energetic body separates from the physical body and is operating more freely across the multi-dimensional field. This doesn't mean that every nightmare is an attack, but I do treat persistent nightmares as information. Your subconscious is telling you that something needs to be cleared, processed, protected, or brought back into coherence. And yes, energetic siphoning can obviously also happen while you are awake through fear loops, obsessive attention, toxic dynamics, draining relationships, or environments that constantly pull you out of your center. So if the dream field is repeatedly showing you fear, intrusion, pursuit, paralysis, or energetic depletion, I take that as a cue to clear the field. This is why we use protection rituals when necessary. We cleanse, we cut cords, we close unwanted gates, and we strengthen boundaries. And above all, we stop feeding fear. Because fear is the hook. Coherence is the release. Most importantly, you remember who you are. If you are aligned with Source, our intelligent creator, the universe, you do not need to live terrified of every dark thought form or entity, because Source is primary. Light is not fragile, and love is not weak, and coherence is stronger than distortion. The negative entities have nothing to attach to if you are high frequency. They simply can't reach you. And that is the biggest misconception about high magic. The highest expression of magic is not controlling other people. It is mastering your own field, your attention, your intention, your ethics, your actions, your consciousness, and your relationship with Source. Because if consciousness is participatory, which I know it is, then you are adding something to the collective field. You do not need an audience. Every act of integrity changes the pattern. Every boundary changes the pattern. Every creation changes the pattern. Every time you choose truth over deception, love over fear, sovereignty over control, you are releasing that separation and you are adding back something to the collective field. Now that is high magic to me. Not controlling reality through force, but becoming so coherent with the reality you choose that you bring that pattern into form. And that is something worth understanding. Not because it belongs to some elite group, not because it is inherently dark, not because it is reserved for secret societies, but because the deeper principles behind it about how consciousness participates in reality. The real secret is not that magic belongs to some elite group. The real secret is that you are already participating in that reality, whether you understand you are or not. So the question is, do you want to understand the rules of the game? Do you want to be a player or do you want to be played? Because once you understand the mechanics, that is where it gets really interesting. As I said, as above, so below, as within, so without. And ultimately, the occult is not inherently evil because knowledge is neutral. The consciousness wielding knowledge determines what that knowledge becomes. And let me be clear, there is no eternal hell waiting to punish you, and no underworld with ultimate authority over your soul unless consciousness participates in creating and sustaining that experience. Hell is a distortion created by institutions as a mechanism for societal control. Please know that Source, our creator, the intelligent universe, is unconditional love. You came from love. You came from light, and ultimately you return to love and light. Fear can create convincing realities. Collective belief can create powerful thought forms. Trauma can create entire inner worlds, but none of them are greater than our loving universe, our source creator. So do not feed the illusion that darkness has ultimate authority over you. Remember where you came from. You are a fractal of Source. Remember your power. Remember what you are. So choose love, choose coherence, choose truth, and return your consciousness to Source. Thank you very much. I love you all.